Greetings, dear viewers. In this short segment, I want to tell you about a unique lightweight motorcycle that comes from post-war Germany. Its name is Imme R100. At first glance, it's just a lightweight 100cc two-stroke motorcycle. Such lightweight and inexpensive vehicles were in high demand in Germany in the second half of the 40s, as well as in other European countries. All because lightweight motorcycles were affordable. Most people simply couldn't afford anything more serious at that time. But Imme R100 stands out among other vehicles in its class due to a number of interesting technical solutions. I'll tell you about them and the history of this motorcycle now. You're on the Krasmodo channel. Enjoy watching. As I already mentioned in the introduction, the population of post-war Europe, including Germany, needed means of transportation. But people's financial situation was very modest. The simplest solution was a bicycle. A slightly more expensive, but still relatively affordable option was a light and inexpensive motorcycle with a small engine. And many engineers and designers of that time realized what the masses needed and what kind of equipment the company could profit from. One of these engineers was Norbert Riedel. Riedel was born in 1912 in Jägerndorf, Sudetenland, Austria-Hungary. In his youth, he studied machinery and mechanical engineering, and in the 30s, he first worked at the motorcycle company ARD and later at Victoria Verkey, which also produced motorcycles. During World War II, Norbert developed a starter engine, the so-called Riedel starter, for the power units of the first German jet-powered combat aircraft. The starter system was a two-stroke boxer engine with a power output of about 10 horsepower. The engine was characterized by an extremely short stroke. The cylinder diameter was 70 millimeters and the piston stroke was 35. This was done so that it could fit into the hubs of the turbo compressor. The engines were produced at the Victoria Verkey plant in Nuremberg. They served as starters in aircraft such as the Junkers Umo 004 and the BMW 003. After the war ended, Riedel could not continue his work in the field of military technology. However, the Americans became interested in his starter for their own jet aviation efforts. And Norbert was supported by the U.S. Occupation Administration, which provided him with production facilities, equipment, and finances. In turn, Riedel wanted to produce motorcycles of his own design. He already had experience in this field, and the administration did not interfere with this desire. By 1947, Norbert had finished designing his motorcycle and tested the prototypes. It was possible to start mass production. In the same year, according to other sources, in 1948, he founded Riedel Motoren AG in Immenstadt, where he relocated the production facilities from the town of Muggendorf. The local government supported Riedel because they wanted to provide jobs for a number of local residents who had previously worked in the aviation industry. The first prototype was called Riedel R100, and the production models were named Imme R100. There are several opinions about its origin. The most common version is that it is an abbreviation of Immenstadt. On the other hand, IMME translates as bee. The motorcycle's logo features a bee on wheels, and some motorcycle enthusiasts suggest that the name comes from the motorcycle itself, which resembles a bee, or from the sound of the two-stroke engine, which is similar to the buzzing of a bee.
Go ahead.
Riedel's idea was to create a lightweight and easy-to-manufacture motorcycle, but it's important to remember that this was happening in a defeated and half-ruined Germany. Many factories were damaged, and this fact naturally affected the appearance of the machinery. There was a severe shortage of rolled steel. All the steel mills in West Germany had suffered from the bombings by the Royal Air Force, and Riedel solved this issue in a very ingenious way. The chassis elements of the Imme R100 motorcycle are all made from the same type of pipe. This is a pipe with a diameter of 40 millimeters. From it, both the fork, the backbone frame, and the swing arm, which also served as the exhaust pipe, and the steering column were made. But using a lot of pipes for a single machine is an unaffordable luxury. That's why Norbert cut costs on the fork and the swing arm. Basically, the R100 had half a fork and half a swing arm. The single-sided fork had a parallelogram design with a spring shock absorber. The swing arm, which also served as the exhaust, together with the rigidly attached engine and transmission, pivoted on an axis and was sprung by a monoshock. The fender and its mounting elements were additionally reinforced to create a solid and fairly rigid swing arm structure. The backbone frame was also made from 40 millimeter tubing. The Imme in motion was a curious sight. The engine bounced up and down in sync with the rear suspension. Combining the engine and transmission in one unit was quite interesting. First of all, its appearance. The engine had an unusual egg-shaped form. It was styled to match the appearance of the motorcycle. It was a two-stroke single-cylinder power unit with a displacement of 99 cubic centimeters and a maximum output of 4.5 horsepower. That was an impressive figure for those times. The typical power of 100 cubic centimeter motorcycles back then was around 2.5 to 3 horsepower. In addition to their extravagant appearance, the engine and gearbox also featured a number of interesting solutions. The crankshaft was supported by only one bearing, also for the sake of saving costs and making it cheaper. It had an asymmetrical shape with the crank pin supported on one side only and a single counterweight. The cylinder head was a single piece with the cylinder, and all of this was cast from aluminum around a cast iron liner. The gearbox had 3 speeds, but no neutral. This was also done to save materials. Shifting was done with the left handlebar grip. The first gear was in the middle of the shift pattern. Second was lower and third was higher. The clutch mechanism allowed it to be locked in the disengaged position, simulating neutral. For the sake of a clean exterior look, the carburetor was hidden under a rounded chrome right engine cover. The motorcycle's wheels were interchangeable. In the first year of mass production, in '48, only 80 units of Imme R100 were produced. But that was just the start of production. The motorcycle's lightweight, powerful engine and long travel suspension made it popular in motorsports. Imme R100 motorcycles actively and successfully participated in races, both on the road and off-road. It is claimed that the elegant two-stroke could reach speeds of up to 80 kilometers per hour, and the chassis handled bumps excellently. Imme earned a reputation as a reliable and lively machine. This, along with well-executed marketing and low prices, led to high sales. The basic Imme model was sold for 775 German marks without a battery, speedometer, or center stand. The passenger seat and the spare wheel, which was mounted next to the rear one, were optional extras for an additional fee. Initially, all Imme motorcycles were painted in oxide red. In 1950, a better-equipped export version appeared for 850 German marks, featuring a battery, electric horn, center stand, speedometer, a more comfortable seat, chrome-plated parts, and a choice of colors including light green and glossy black. In 1950, production volumes increased to 1,000 units per month, and by the fall of that year, 10,000 Imme R100 motorcycles had been sold. The profit margin on the relatively inexpensive R100 was small, and Riedel hoped to make up for the modest profit with significant production volume. The power units of the R100 were also sold to the Fritz Fend Company for installation in their third generation of the three-wheeled microcar Pfitzer, a single-seater vehicle marketed as an invalid carriage. However, Norbert Riedel's motorcycle began to develop problems. Problems with the crankshaft, specifically with the single support bearing, as well as with the Kickstarter overrunning clutch, became widespread. Riedel fixed this problem starting with version D, which had a conventional crankshaft with 2 bearings. However, the sales profits were not enough to cover the warranty service costs, and by the end of 1950, Riedel AG went bankrupt with debts of 1.25 million German marks. By that time, Riedel had designed 3 prototypes of the Imme with a 2-cylinder inline 2-stroke engine with a displacement of 150 cubic centimeters, also egg-shaped. And if misfortune hadn't struck the company's first model, or if Norbert had had more finances, who knows how the company's history would have unfolded. Fritz Philips, who held a managerial position at Riedel AG, founded the company Zweiradmotoren und Getriebe GmbH CMG to supply parts and repair Imme motorcycles. CMG also started producing the Imme with a 2-cylinder inline 2-stroke engine with a displacement of 175 cc, but they produced only 25 units before stopping production. In the world of motorcycle design, there are rare moments of striking clarity and thoughtfulness, when machines are created with such innovation and beauty that they can hardly be called products of their time. Such motorcycles can have 2 destinies. The first, they are put on a pedestal as a turning point in the industry, as designs that push the boundaries and forced everyone else to catch up. The second, they fade into obscurity to be appreciated only by a few who recognize their true advancement. The genius of their creator is recognized only long after they have faded into obscurity, when the rest of the industry finally catches up to the future that was foreseen in advance. These motorcycles can only be appreciated in retrospect, seeing how their features anticipated future trends. And that is exactly the fate of Imme. The Imme R100 stood as one of the most exciting examples of motorcycle design from the mid-20th century, and, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful motorcycles of all time. It was a machine ahead of its time, a vehicle embodying emerging principles that would take decades to become popular, combined into a single whole, which has since earned recognition from the world's motorcycle elite. Imme was not just a skillfully engineered motorcycle, but also one of the most beautiful examples of industrial design that few people have heard of. That, my friends, is the story of the most unusual post-war German motorcycle, Imme R100. And with that, my story comes to an end. You already know how to support my work. Please like and leave a comment so that YouTube's algorithms will recommend this episode to more people. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so you don't miss any new videos. This was the Krasmodo channel. See you next time.